Hello and welcome. Welcome to episode 201, but who's counting? Who's counting anymore? I'm in this weird like subway underwater with all these jellyfish outside. Kind of feels like the rest of the world a little bit. Kind of feels normal. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and it's a great way to start off the week with Martin Luther King Day. Hopefully, this is going to be a super boring presidential inauguration week here in the U.S. That's what we're hoping for. Just dull as dishwater, just, swearing in, and maybe somebody will dance around and sing or something. Maybe somebody will read a poem. Super dull, super boring. That's what we're hoping for. 201 episodes. Yeah, 201 episodes. Yeah, it's, sometimes hard when you reach a milestone because you're like, what's going to happen next? And lots is going to happen next. This show is just going to keep getting better and better. Today on the show is no exception. We have the marvelous comedian Xander Beltran. It is kind of a interview Friday because we didn't have an interview Friday. It's going to be on Monday, interview Moin Day. He's coming to us all the way from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. Fly like a hummingbird, baby. We're flying. We're taking off. Who'd you think we'd be hoping for? A boring inauguration? Yeah, who'd have think? Who'd have thought we'd be voting for a boring inauguration? Yeah, just as dull as it can be. Oh man, I hope it's so boring. So boring. And also you can take a break because Wednesday we're going to have lunch therapy. And you'll be like, oh God, this inauguration is so boring. I need some excitement. Turn over here. And today though, Xander, we're not only going to interview Xander, but he's also going to tell a crazy story like in the middle of it. Just wacky, crazy story. Also over the weekend, here in the Marshall Lopez household, we watched the 2015 movie The Martian, starring Matt Damon, which was, I don't know how I missed that movie. I don't know how I missed it. It's super good. I'm going to try and get the guy who wrote it on the show, working on that. But, you might want to check it out. Check out the movie if you haven't seen it, because it's about a guy who's stuck on Mars and has to survive. And it's very science-driven, which is cool. I mean, the guy who wrote it tried to get it as scientifically accurate as possible. So Andy Weir is his name. Yeah, hopefully we'll get him on the show. That's what I'm hoping. And then on Friday this week, we have this incredible actress that it's a long anticipated interview. Her name is Rondi Reed. She was on Mike and Molly. She also started Steppenwolf Theater. And she won a Tony for August Osage County. So anyway, we've got that to look forward to on Friday. She's got some crazy stories. She did a play with Tom Waits. Yeah. So that should be fun. Fly like a hummingbird, baby. Yeah. Joel, I was wondering if Damon would die at the end. And I said it would never happen. Let's see. It would never have gotten funded if he did. Well, watch the movie, find out. The Martian. I was saying, I would end it with him dying. So, I don't know. You'll see whether they made that choice or not. It's pretty cool. So, anyway, let's get into some lunch therapy because God knows we need it. And we need to do some breathing. And here we go. Hey, Guy Fly, how's your eye? I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 Break free and breathe, babies. I've got over here some pandas rolling around the snow because I know that you need it. I know that everybody needs to see some pandas rolling around the snow. This from Nature is amazing. It's on Facebook. Sometimes it pops up and on my phone, and so I wanted to share that with you. Anytime you need some pandas playing around in the snow, just let me know. I got it all for you right here. There was the weird thing where I turned off the phone. So anyway, we're going to breathe now. We're going to take it in through the nose and out through the toes. 3 times. Here we go. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Yes, one of our viewers, Ginel, said that he was hallucinating about my shirt, and I don't know what you're talking about, Ginel. My shirt looks fine. Maybe he thought that we were supposed to smoke during the breathing. Oh, he is. All right, in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. All right, and one more, in through the nose, out through the toes. I got to get to Xander here because we got some interesting shit to talk about. In through the nose, out through the toes. Yeah, I've noticed that too. Doing this. Just even taking these 3 breaths at lunch therapy has increased my lung capacity. I think so. Anybody else out there besides Ginyel? Yeah, he holds his breath a lot longer. Oh. Wow. Well, let's just see what Deidre has to say here. She's over there. I think there will be Americans with class for a wonderful day. Millionaires need to pull up their bridges. Is that what it is? Anyone wanting to come to Canada, we welcome you. All right, we have Canadian presence today. Yes, any advice that you have for us? Sometimes people are like, oh, I'm just going to move to Canada. This is America sucks. I'm going to move to Canada. But it's like, would the Canadians want them? I don't know. Deidre says yes. I want to come to Canada. Yeah, a lot of us are like, that'd be good. Can you hygge in LA? There's definitely, yeah. For those of you that don't know about the Danish tradition of hygge, I am presenting that today, which is a nice warm fire, nice snow outside, makes you feel cozy. This is kind of a cozy show. Music's getting too loud. I want to be Canadian, please. Yes, please help. Yes, Deidre, we need your help. We need your help because, for one thing, if you get sick here, it's like you gotta sell your house. You know, and you don't want to even go to the doctor and hear that you're sick because you're afraid you're gonna lose everything. So that alone would make me want to move to Canada. Thanks, Deidre. Appreciate that. This Canadian talk, but let's try and, bring the Canada here, right? I mean, not that we're gonna annex America onto Canada or whatever, but let's bring some of the great traditions of Canada. Let's learn from the Canadians, what I'm trying to say. There's a great movie by Michael Moore called Who to Invade Next, or Who Will We Invade Next? Something like that. Who should we invade next? And what he does is goes around to all different countries around the world and talks to them about all the cool shit that they're doing there to inspire us to do some of that stuff too. Matt, here's the hygge. We have bed lights at the foot of our poster canopy bed, twinkling away, a thick duvet with plush plaid blanket on top, and 3 large candles with the French doors open to the backyard. Very hygge, I can tell you that. I'm all on board for Canada, eh? We're already talking like Canadians. I wonder if applying to Canada is like college applications. Do you need extracurriculars? Yeah, you probably do. Start working on those extracurriculars because they look at that stuff. It's not just, your grades, but it's also extracurriculars. I actually remember Matt Wright wrote his application to college, and he talked about his life being a 3-stage rocket. I don't know what it is now. Maybe it's like a 12-stage rocket. All right, so moving on. We're getting into this interview with Xander Beltran. Xander is a comedian. He's been doing comedy in the Bay Area and around the country for 8 years. He's a professional comedian, and we have him today on the show. Here we go. And also feel free to chat. Feel free to participate. I will also be chatting along because this is from last Thursday. Here he is, Xander Beltran. All right, here we are with Xander Beltran. He is a comedian from San Francisco, and it's so good to have you here, Xander.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joel. I'm excited for today. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too.
Get a little therapy going.
Yeah, you got to get some therapy. So, speaking of therapy, where are you from? Tell me about your childhood.
I'm from Oxnard, California. Do you know where that is?
I actually have gone out there, and I thought, I don't want to go to a place called Oxnard because it just seems, it seems sort of like genitalia of an ox. But I decided to go there because somebody invited me there, and it's a splendid place on the water.
Yeah,
and,
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody else, though. If they ask, tell them it's full of gangs. We just can't get these cholos under control because it's already been gentrified enough. I think we're at the perfect point of gentrification.
Yeah.
Oxnard used to look like Oxnard is the place where Hollywood goes to film to make it look like they're in Bakersfield.
Oh, okay.
Or to make it look like they're in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, this is a scene in Wisconsin. I'm like, that's 2 blocks from my house.
And it's right on the ocean too, right?
Yeah. It's got a nice beach area. Most people are familiar with Ventura, but don't tell anyone. It's full of gangs. There's rats just everywhere. They're huge.
Where did they get the name Oxnard? What's up with that?
So Oxnard is actually from the 2 guys that founded the town. They were the Oxnard brothers, and they were sugar beet farmers.
Wow. So it's a name, somebody's name, Oxnard.
Yeah, it's got like a rich farming history. Cesar Chavez lived there for some time as well.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So then you moved up to San Francisco. When did you do that?
So first I moved to Berkeley because I went to UC Berkeley out of high school.
Yeah.
And then I just fell in love with the Bay Area, and I went back home for a little bit and then came back up, and I've just been up here for the last 4 years now.
Oh, that's cool. And you've been doing comedy since what, college?
Yeah, I started in college when I was 21.
21. Wow. And now you're 22?
I wish. No, I'm 29 years old.
Oh, you said your age. I try to never say people's ages on the show, so I kind of put you in a corner, but 29 to you probably seems old. But to me, it seems like you just crawled right out of the way.
I'm okay with it. I'm at the point where I'm like, let's just call it 30 already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I take a Tums before I eat pizza. You know what I mean? I'm ready. Let's settle down.
I'm built for this, man.
Start slowing down. 30. Yeah.
What did you major in college?
I did English literature and theater.
Yeah.
So food service, basically.
That's good.
Before I started doing comedy full time, I was a sous chef at a restaurant.
Oh, wow. That's wild. You do comedy full time. So when you say you do comedy full time, does that mean you travel? I mean, this is obviously extenuating circumstances right now, but in general, do you travel around the country? Do you just do it in San Francisco? What's your way of running your comedy business?
So I'll first qualify it that I live in a rent controlled apartment, so it's not like I'm making $1,800 a week from stand up.
So you're keeping I say this, you keep your nuts small. Your Oxnard small.
You know what's funny? I grew up there and I never thought of it as testicles for an
I don't know.
But,
it's nards. There's the term nards. Maybe that's like an old term.
Your nards.
Your nards. So Oxnards.
Yeah, that's a Gen X term for
is that what it is?
I don't know.
It probably is. So anyway, you keep your nut small, meaning that what you have to pay monthly, you want to keep that down so that you don't have to go out and get like a real job, as they say?
Yeah, I used to live in a really nice place in Nob Hill that was like very expensive, like hardwood floors. I lived with these other guys that were, well to do. We had like full bar kind of thing. And then I found this place where we have rent control. It's an old comedy house. People have been living here for years. My first place in here was like $420 was the price of the room.
Whoa.
So that's what started me off. I was like, that's all I have to make each month, that and my phone bill. And so I quit my job and started doing that. And then there's a couple other ways that I make money. So I've done like content creating for GoDaddy. I don't know if the commercials will ever come out because the world changed right after I made them. The video I made for GoDaddy was how you can use GoDaddy to make your website anywhere, on the bus, in a park, at a friend's house, in a restaurant. And I'm just like, you can do it anywhere. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, you can't go anywhere. I was like, well, those will never air. But they still paid me. And then I also started something at the beginning of quarantine, much like you. I was like, what am I going to do with my life now? So I started doing this series called like #songs for you, where my fans on Instagram would send me any amount of money, even if they sent like a penny. I would just like dedicate the amount of effort to the song as they paid. And they would send me like a topic and a style, and I would just come up with a song on the spot. And then some people asked me to do songs for their like podcasts. And at first I'm charging like $30. And then I had some people that wanted for their vlogs. Yesterday I just sold another podcast song. So I started making like personalized songs for people that make YouTube channels and podcasts and things like that. And that's been another way that I've started making revenue.
Wow. So you're a musician too?
Yeah, I sing and rap. I'm really bad at instruments. I just got a guitar, so I'm going to start practicing that now that I'm in quarantine 2.0.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend some time working on that. But yeah, I'm interested in all the things that can get me attention.
The attention,
I like to sing, I like to rap, I like cooking, I juggle. I just want people just look at me.
You juggle? You juggle too? Do you really?
Yeah, I can juggle. You want to see it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Wow, I did not plan to do juggling on your show. I swear I didn't plan this.
There they are.
You ready?
Yeah.
Check it out.
Oh my God! Look at that.
Oh, that's called playing tennis.
You can do that thing too.
And then this is Mill's mess. Oh.
I love it.
There you go.
Do you even have the terminology down? Was that some kind of terminology for when you go around?
Yeah, it's like a thing. My one of my best friends from childhood wanted to be a circus performer when he was in college, so he learned how to do all that stuff. And then, sometimes you just pick up a skill because you just like somebody, they're your friend, and you're like, I might as well learn it too, so we can do it together.
Yeah.
Now it's a really great way to deal with anxiety. Like if I'm feeling a little anxious, I'll just juggle while I think of stuff. It's nice.
Why do you think that helps? Why do you think that helps for anxiety? I'm just.
I think a lot of my anxiety is just ADHD. Yeah. I think turning into that, and so just being able to occupy a couple things at once can help me focus on something else. It's like tapping your pen while you read or something like that.
Yeah. So you gotta give your mind something to do, so that you're not your attention comes off of yourself, essentially.
Right. I think so.
Yeah, I find that that's true too. Sometimes the best ideas I get, even for comedy and things like that, as well, doing something else, exercising.
Oh, totally.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Where you're like, now I'm going to give myself a break from trying to think of funny things.
Right. And that's when you think of the funniest thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I always tell my friends the best like writing prompt is letting yourself get bored or busying yourself. It's like the extremes. So either just like laying on your back in your room, just staring at the ceiling like a kid, Yeah. Because you'll be so bored, your brain will start to entertain itself. If you turn off the TV, turn off music, your brain will be like, oh, well, I guess it's our turn, and your imagination will kick on.
Yeah. And
that's when I come up with my best stuff, or when I'm super busy focusing on, I'm like, I got to do this other thing. Yeah. And that's when my brain's like, no, you won't. You're procrastinating with this great new joke you just wrote.
Yeah.
So
sometimes also I need like a deadline to, like my show, like it goes at noon 3 days a week. And I just need that deadline because it'll force me to finally go, well, I guess I got to use this. I guess I got to do this. And then you do it rather than just going through all your choices on and on endlessly. And I think that's one of the difficulties of comedy for people is that they come up with something and then they don't work it. They just move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing.
Right. Constantly starting new projects is
and that's
is
probably
an
a
ailment
creative
that a lot of people have.
Yeah, that's just a creative ailment in general. Like, I remember when I was first learning how to play the guitar, I would start to learn a song and then get to the hard part and then go, oh, maybe I'll learn something else. And then you just never, you never learn the song. You never learn the song.
Right. So you know every song without the solo. You just rhythm guitar. I got it. Bars. And then what you could do is just whistle it. That's I've seen that one at a party before. The person just keeps doing rhythm guitar and whistles. I'm like, you never learned the solo, did you? That's a common thing with creative people. I think it's because the creative mind is trying to think of something new, and that's why you're creative. But you have to like stay firm and a little rigid and structured to finish projects.
Don't you also feel
way harder than starting them?
Well, also you get sort of like, this is stupid. You know what I mean? Like you say, I'm going to write a sitcom or whatever. And you start writing the sitcom and you're writing, well, this is great. And it's all fresh and new. And you're like, that's a great idea. And then all of a sudden you start to look back at it and it doesn't have the same newness of it. Right. And then you're kind of like, well, maybe I'll go on to something. And then somebody comes by and goes, and you go, hey, what do you think of this? And they say, well, that's kind of like Friends. And you're like, oh yeah, I guess it's kind of like Friends. And then you go off. Yeah,
but also there's like 9 shows that are kind of like Friends, and they're all hits.
Exactly.
Like Seinfeld and Friends are the same.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah. Right.
Right. And then there's like How I Met Your Mother, New Girl. There's all these shows that are just people that live in a city they're all single, and eventually 2 of them fall in love with each other.
I also think that there's I believe this because I've been taking classes on this stuff, but I have this friend, his name is Gunnar Rohrbacher, and he has this theory.
That's a great name.
Isn't it great? It's a great name. He has a whole school of this sitcom acting and writing, and he feels like there are basically archetypes that are in every sitcom, and they all interact the way they interact with each other, and that's what creates conflict. And I think it's probably pretty true. So when people start saying, I want to write a character that's never been written before, it's probably maybe a good idea to start with the archetypes. And then, if you want to come up with your own variations, you're kind of reinventing.
Right. You have to know what's been done so you can do something new.
Yeah.
Like I have friends that I have been like arguing with each other over who wrote this joke that I definitely know someone wrote in 1930 because I read like history of comedy books. I'm like, this is like a Milton Berle joke. Get over yourselves. You know what I mean? Like this was written by Rodney Dangerfield when his name was Jack Roy. Like, stop it. Like, everybody has a joke about how they hit their wife. Like you're nobody, you know what I mean? It's not like some of the things, it's not who does it first, because it's already been done. Who does it best? Yeah, and how you do it.
I mean, you don't want to like take somebody's routine and just repeat it.
No, that's lame.
I mean, but certainly when you come up with ideas, like I had a certain cadence to something that I said that was a part of my comedy routine. It probably still is. But I would be like, the cadence of it, I was like, well, that's a lot like Steve Martin, the way he did a particular joke. But it was completely different words. And I was giving myself a hard time about it, almost like it was like I was stealing. And then I was like, no, I'm not stealing. I'm just, I'm standing on the shoulders of greatness, even just a little bit. Also,
Steve Martin was doing parody of Elvis and other pop stars. So he was also borrowing.
Totally. Or Bob Dylan, when he came out, he was doing an impression of Woody Guthrie. He would play all Woody Guthrie songs. And he was just basically a Woody Guthrie tribute band when he started. So
I think, I think it's more important for the material just to be honest.
Yeah.
If it feels right to you, just because somebody else has had the thought before doesn't mean it isn't still true to you. Well, you had it. Yeah, it's one thing to steal, but it's another thing to just be similar to someone. That's actually great. That's a good thing.
I think that's a good thing too. Sometimes musicians don't like it when you say, "Oh, you sound like the Beatles," or "You sound like Radiohead," or you know what I mean? They're like, no, I sound like me."
Those musicians were actively stealing that. That's why. They knew that when they got started. They're like,
thieves.
I work on music with people, and they'll be like, "Oh man, this kind of sounds like." And every time they're pretty aware of it. So That's like, have you ever heard of that band Greta Van Fleet?
Yes.
Yeah, they sound exactly like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And I read an interview where they just denied it over and over again. They're
they?
like, no. And it's like, I'm hoping that I'm just reading it wrong and they're being sarcastic.
Yeah.
But I'm like, there's no way you guys, like, you're in love with Led Zeppelin. You have to be obsessed.
Totally
There's no way this is just what you sound like, and it sounds exactly like Led Zeppelin.
Have you read up on how Led Zeppelin stole all of their songs from early?
Yeah, they're like all standards. The songs.
Yeah, they're all early American standards that
Blues
they
standards.
stole. Blues standards, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? They did a great job. Playing that
Right,
song.
it sounds amazing.
It's amazing. They were like the first heavy metal band. I would say. I'd say they were probably the first big heavy metal band, and they might have been the best. Do you think?
Yeah, no, I love Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
that's kind of. I grew up in a Led Zeppelin house.
Did you?
I can say, yeah, that was my dad's favorite band for sure. That and like Eric Clapton, I think, is what we were listening to all the time.
So was your dad like a hippie?
Well, also, he stole most of his music from what's his name, J.J. Kane.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like a lot of Eric Clapton songs are from him. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I mean, it's tradition.
But it sounds different and sounds almost better. You know, I'm sure some people would hate me saying that, but
do you think that we can play some of your songs that you wrote while you were in this phase of doing your early shows in the quarantine?
Sure. I'd have to send them to you later, but I can send you.
That would be great. I mean, if you want, if you want, no pressure. But I would love to.
Yeah, I can find a couple and show them to you.
I love the idea of you just coming up with tunes, just kind of on the fly like that. And because I'm really interested.
That's fun.
Yeah, I'm interested in what people do. I mean, improv is one thing, but also what people do when they're kind of put on the spot. You know, what is it?
Right.
What does it ignite? And I guess that's sort of what improv is about sometimes. It's like, what do you do when you put somebody in front of an audience and just have them perform? But sometimes that can
rise to the occasion. Well, some people aren't meant to have pressure put on them. The pressure sadly keeps them. They stay cold. They don't ever turn into the diamond.
Oh, yeah, I know what that's like. You turn the camera on them, and then all of a sudden they're just like deer in the headlights. You're like, this is the funniest guy I know, and then you turn the camera on them, and they're like, they answer like in one word sentences and stuff.
Yeah, I have friends that can rap or sing, but only like if they're with me or like a couple other people they're super close with, and I'll forget that, and we'll be at a party, and somebody will have a guitar, and I'll be like, start playing, and then I'll sing something like it's whatever, and then I'm like, and you, and then they're just like, and I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't have done this.
Don't you think that's kind of what makes a difference between like a hobbyist and a performer, is that the performer has now learned how to take themselves and put it on stage. Like you were saying, it always goes back to yourself.
Right.
But how can you be yourself in this extenuating circumstance? I mean, acting is like that too. Basically, I think we watch actors because it's almost like a voyeuristic experience. It's like you get a chance to watch people without kind of them being aware of you watching them. And so the more they can be in life.
You get a ticket for that at the park.
What'd you say?
I said you could get a ticket for that.
Right.
You're just hanging out in the park watching people.
That's the thing, is you can get a ticket for it. So instead we sort of recreate it so that's perfectly legal, and there's an understanding that it's okay if you watch me. And a lot of times, obviously in movies people take showers, people do stuff that you know would be voyeuristic to watch somebody do that. But we'll all sit in a theater and watch that simulated real life. And so as a comedian, a lot of times what you're doing is you're putting yourself up on stage and saying, look, here's just a real person talking to you, talking about their real, sometimes personal things in front of this giant crowd, just being themselves.
Right. And, I think that's what the main thing that separates a professional from a hobbyist is that comfortability that you're talking about, where it's not, they're not putting it on. And also it doesn't feel like some special event when you do it. Like first couple of years I did stand up, every time I got on stage, it was like this huge thing. I had to make a huge post, tell all my friends, you have to come, I'm doing stand up. Yeah. And now that I've like last year I did it almost like every day, and now when I do it, it's just like this is what I do.
Yeah,
it's like going for a walk. This is what I do with my time.
How do you in San Francisco usually, not during the lockdown or whatever? How do you usually perform every day? Like, where do you
usually
find the venues?
There's a really good local scene here. So we have Punchline and Cobb's. I'm still working on getting passed at those clubs, but they do like some showcases you can get on through other producers. And then there's the Setup in Comedy Oakland. Those are like nicer like venues. They're like at a restaurant or bar, but they sell tickets and they have a nice setup for the room. And then there's all these other different bar shows. There's this show at a theater called Cheaper Than Therapy. And there's enough where you could probably schedule a full 3 weeks every month doing shows, especially because there's this company called #HelloFunny that I work with all the time and host for them a couple of nights a week usually. And then the Bay Area is kind of similar to New York in the sense where everything's so close and they're all big cities. So you can do shows in San Jose as well, Oakland, Sacramento, all really easily. And I take the train to most of them. I don't even have a car. But what I usually do is like I spend like 2-3 weeks out of the month up here, and then another 1 or 2 weeks on the road to fill in those gap days. Like go do stuff in LA or out in Phoenix.
Do you have an hour set that you do? Can you ever do that?
Yeah, I have an hour.
Yeah. And what is that?
I've been doing it for almost 8 years now, or
wow.
7, 8 years.
Wow, that's impressive. That's good. So do you find when you do comedy in different states that you have to adjust your comedy at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, even just different parts of California. I have over an hour of material, but if I was going to make a set for each place, it would probably be about like 45 minutes or an hour. Because there's some places where like the more wholesome jokes aren't going to work because it's all young people and they're just like, well, no one cares. You're like simple jokes about like work and family. They're just like, whatever. We want to hear about microdosing LSD and all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah.
And then when you're at a club, like I'm a feature at House of Comedy in Phoenix. And when I do that club, other than the like Friday and Saturday, like if I'm doing their Wednesday, Thursday, or Sunday shows, it's all like older, middle-aged white people that are conservative. So then I do my like jokes with less cursing in them, material about family, religion, stuff like that, stuff that's more relatable to them. I remember at my first set there, my first weekend, I started with this because I just wasn't aware of it yet because I was just feeling myself, got there first night, started with my regular set, and I do this joke where I say, my name is Xander Beltran, and I've been sober before. I have tried it. And they immediately were like, fuck this kid. And then the rest of my 20-minute feature set, I'm just battling like, no, I'm good. I'm nice. I'm a nice, hardworking young man.
Don't you hate that when you just got to lose them right in the beginning? Oh, God, that's the worst.
Usually smoke a little bit of weed because I got depression. So
they're like getting ready to applaud.
Trying to explain it. And I go right into, and I'm like sober before, and they're just like, oh. Man. And I lost them. And then like the next day I spent like the whole morning just like, all right, what could I say in front of my grandma that would make her laugh and not hate me? And so I wrote my whole set like that, and I changed it completely to do that. But then on Friday, while I start my set that's like cleaner, I realize the crowd's a little looser, and I switch it up and go back to being a little more dirty. Yeah. And that's a lot of comedy, is just understanding what the room is like. So you don't want the audience to write your material like the reason why you're doing stuff is because you think people will like it, but it's more like picking the stuff that you like that they'll also like.
Yeah, because ultimately they bought the ticket to come in and sit down there and have a fun time. But you have to be you. Not trying to be like, oh, what's a comedian that they would like? I'll try and be that person. You can't be that.
Right. But also there are multiple versions of you or of me. Like, absolutely. Like I just did what is my family version of funny on that show,
Yeah.
Whereas I started off with I'm being funny with my friends from college, so that's kind of the thing. You ever like hang out with someone who doesn't code switch, and you just like you make the mistake of introducing them to your parents, and they're like, hey dude, and you're like, dude, don't call my dad dude.
I've never heard that phrase. Code switch, is that what you called it?
Yeah, code switching. It's more common for
it's a very like Silicon Valley thing to say, right? It's a code switch.
Yeah.
Like you're changing your code. I was doing
like,
Fortran, and now I'm doing C++.
Right. Or like I'm acting a little less Latino, acting more white for my business meeting, you know. Sometimes you act a little bit more woke or whatever. That's kind of the most common one I see is people kind of turn it on. Or there's some people like their code switching is like obvious and bad. It's like when people like someone starts talking to a black person and they're like, "What's up, my brother?" You're like, "I've never heard you say that in your whole life."
Yeah, that's always a bad idea.
Why did you just start saying lit? You don't say lit. It's not a word you say.
Hey, bro. That's like if I start going around going, "Hey, bro, how's it going, bro, brother?" Sometimes people, my friends,
like Hulk Hogan.
Sometimes, yeah. Right, my whole voice changed. I think that's kind of an indication. Like somebody comes over to meet your parents and they're like, hello, Mrs. Beltran, so nice to meet you. And they change their whole like voice. Not only are they just filtering out the curse words, but now they're trying to be trying to be somebody else. Good one. You know? Yeah.
But like I want my friends to code switch when they meet my parents. I don't want them to be like, "Yeah, what's up, Mr. B? You want to smoke a doob?" Like I want them to be like, "Hello, how are you? How's work?" You know? Because I'm gonna do that because that's how you talk. Like that's how you talk to your elders. It's not like you're not in the gym, you're not in the locker room.
Well, I heard
that's important to me.
I heard somebody recently saying that too, that they hated the word dude. Like, and it was like an somebody older than me. And they were like, "Do you use the word dude? Like, what's the deal with dude?" Like the person was like, "Well, I like to," it was Dick Cavett. That's who it was. It was Dick Cavett. And he said, I'm a professional or professional level horse rider, but I don't like to be called dude. Dude is like, it's sort of offensive." And I was like, not even thinking, like, I don't even think we think of dude as in like Dude Ranch. And I think I mean, maybe it came from that. I don't know where dude came from, but I think that used to be a term. You'd go to a dude ranch, and it was basically people that were not professional horse riders. They were they go.
It means amateur.
It means amateur. Yeah. Hey, amateur.
Oh. Hey, what's up,
think
amateur?
So. I think it might.
Dude, you're my amateur, right? For always, forever. Me and you, amateur.
That might be. We might have just figured out the etymology of it. Hilarious. I don't know. We're going to have to find out from the chat room if that's where it comes from. But yeah, right. There are phrases like that where people say, "Hey, Chief, how's it going, Chief?"
Right.
So you actually kind of taking a status when you use when you call somebody some kind of familiar name like that. Yeah, that's or boss.
I like to call my friends my boy. Like, "How's it going, my boy?"
Yeah.
And it's very like endearing between us, but then I'll accidentally say it to somebody and I'll be like, "Oh no, that didn't sound like someone I don't know." And I'm like, "How you doing today, my boy?" I'm like, "Did I just call a man my boy a boy?" When it's my friend, they know it means my friend. You know?
I have the habit of saying kids sometimes. "Okay, kids, this is what we're gonna do today." And I got it from, I think, Tony Horton, the fitness guru. When he does his fitness videos, he's like, "Kids, okay, today, kids, we're going to do some, weightlifting or whatever." And it's sort of endearing, but sometimes it just seems pejorative. So here's my question for you. Mm-hmm. I heard you had a crazy story.
So yeah, this story is I call it wrestling with my mistake.
Yeah.
So the first one I ever got high was on accident.
Oh.
I didn't like slip and fall face first into a bong. I ate an edible at not knowing it was one. So I was a wrestler in high school. Just give that a little context. Wrestling's super hard. This is like very grueling. You work out like multiple times a day. You can't eat for multiple days at a time. But the hardest part about it is actually everyone calling you gay. That's definitely the hardest part about being a wrestler.
Because you love wrestling around with other men. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's like, "Whatever, that sport's gay." And you're like, especially when you're like a champion at it, you're like, "Come on, like give me my respect." And people are like, "Nah, that stuff's gay." And it's worse. Like everyone and my mom was calling me gay. You know what I mean? Like it's terrible.
And your mom.
I don't understand what's gay about it. It's just two men wearing very little clothing, sweating, and attacking each other in a fight for dominance.
Right.
I see it now. I see it. But yeah, it's a lot of just explaining to people that it's, you know, that it's worthwhile. And it's hard because you're like, you know, I would work out like 3 times a day and not eat, and then there was like not much acclaim for it. People were like, whatever, it's still gay. Which it's also like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with being gay?
Yeah,
like,
why do you care? My
we want to be over here being gay. You leave us alone, damn it. Yeah, they need to be LGBTQW.
But football's really macho.
Live our life.
Like for some reason, football's super macho. Even though they like pat each other on the butt, they're like doing the same thing. They're grabbing each other, pulling each other down.
I had to play center because I was the smartest lineman, so you just have to play center. Like if you're the smartest big guy, you have to play center.
I didn't know that.
Unless you're mid-sized, then you'd be you want center because they call blitzes and things like that.
Yes, but the guard
you probably want your most athletic. You'd want him to be your most athletic.
You have to be faster. Yeah, that's true. I was a
guard. The guards are usually smaller guys.
Yeah. I was a guard and a tackle, and I thought I was pretty smart. So there. You're right, though. Being a center, it's almost like you're like a quarterback too. You have to throw the ball.
You're a quarterback for the line. Yeah. But the guy's hands are like
so
that,
gay.
you know.
Yeah,
you have
so
to like
gay. The guy
like
sticks his hands up your ass.
They don't touch your balls. Yeah, and then
touch your nards.
Nobody ever said that was gay. Everybody was like, all the girls are just like, "You're on the football team. What are you doing on Friday?" But if they say I'm wrestling, they're like, "Oh, he's not interested."
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You know? So this specific day in high school, I woke up a pound underweight, which is always exciting as a wrestler. I was very excited. I was like, hell yeah, I get to drink water today. And being a pound underweight is weird because you're like, it's not enough to be like, oh, I can just eat whatever. You're like, you have to be very specific about what you eat. So usually I wouldn't like wake up and just eat something. I'd like kind of wait all day and like until maybe there was like a treat where I'm like, oh, you know what, this is worth having a bite of. You know. So I was like spending like the better part of my morning just fantasizing about snacks, just like thinking like, man, maybe I'll get a honey bun, who knows, maybe I'll have 3 hot Cheetos, you know, maybe I'll have the corner of a burger, like maybe just one bite of a burger. But then I see this girl in my class and she's eating a brownie. And I was like, ooh, I kind of have a crush on this girl. And I'm like, maybe if I ask her, I can have like a piece of her brownie, you know? Yeah. So I turned to her and I was like, hey, can I have a bite of your brownie? And she's like, sure. But like, you know, it's a special brownie. And I was so naive. I was like, oh my God, for me? Like, that's so nice of you. My special brownie. That's so cute. And I didn't know. So I just take a bite out of it. And it has like leaves in it, like weed leaves in it. But I'm so naive. I'm like, is this mint? What is this? I kind of like this flavor profile. It's actually pretty delightful. And then
flavor profile.
An hour later, I'm in my Spanish class, just sounding like a xenophobe. I'm in the back of the room, like, speak English. Like, like, this is America. No. And luckily I'm like known for being like a jokester in school. Like, so it's so good that I was known for saying crazy stuff all the time because I was legitimately like upset. Like, why aren't you speak English? I can't understand you. And everybody's like, he's hilarious. And I was like, luckily I was able to laugh my way out of that class, but I'm like scared out of my mind, right? It's like my first time ever being high. I'm freaking out. I haven't told any of my friends yet. So it's like a solo journey because I'm afraid if I tell one of my friends, what if they turn on me? What if they tell on me, you know? Yeah. And finally I tell some of my stoner friends and they're like, oh dude, like you're just too high. Like you just have to eat away the high. But I have like a match later that day. So I'm like, scared to eat more than like a piece of celery and drink a little bit of water. So like I'm like, that's not an option. So they're like, oh, just go sleep it off in the wrestling room because I have a key. But I'm like, I'm team captain. Like, what if I run into another wrestler and they immediately know I'm high and I get kicked off the wrestling team and I never go to college? You know, and I'm just like seeing my whole life spiral out of control. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like telling my friends to hide me. Like I'm in a hoodie. Which is like, I don't know why kids do that, where they think using a hoodie to hide your face is going to make you inconspicuous. It like definitely makes it worse. You know what I mean? Like every time I came home
Creed.
to my parents' house and had a hood on or sunglasses, that's when my dad was like, well, let me see your eyes.
Right.
But every time I just walked up to him and was like, hey, what's up, Dad? Go to my room. He'd be like, yeah, that's what teenagers do. They go to their room. But so I'm doing that. And then my friends are like, dude, like, I'm so scared. I'm like, they're like, just go hide in the restroom. You can just go to one of the stalls and you can just sit there. You'll be safe. And so I go to one of the restrooms and I'm like, so scared of everyone. I like end up like mean mugging them. Like I'm looking at everybody like this because I'm scared of them. And I go into the restroom and I see this kid that like is kind of like this cholo guy. And I'm like looking at him like, oh, fuck. Like he's going to fuck me up. And then we both like walked up to each other like we were about to fight. And then he's like dodges me and like runs out. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, apparently on? Like, I guess I'm like, oh yeah. Like I'm like a champion wrestler. Like he's probably like thought I was going to beat him up because I'm just staring at him. And so I like go hide in the restroom. And then I hear while I'm in the restroom, I just hear my name like Alexander Michael Beltran. And I'm like, oh, fuck. My mom's found me. You know, my dad's here. They're going to send me to military school. There's no way. But I like it turns out it's just my friends that are outside messing with me, just going, Alexander Michael Beltran. And the worst part about this whole story is my mom was actually the principal at my high school.
Oh.
So her being in the bathroom catching me is like an actual possibility.
Yeah. Me
having to go see my mom and the principal at the same time because they're the same person is also a possibility. And the worst part about having your mom be the principal at your high school is it's the only job your mom can have where like strangers will walk up to you and go, hey, your mom's a bitch. Like I don't think it happens for other jobs, you know, like people aren't walking up to like hairstylist children going like, hey, your mom fucked up my highlights, that fucking slut. Like it's not a thing, you know. The first time somebody ever called my mom like a bitch to my face, I was at this party and this girl walks up to me and she's like, you're Xander, huh? And I was like, yeah, I'm Xander. She's like, you're Miss Beltran's son, huh? And I was like, yeah, that's my mom. She's like, well, your mom's a fucking bitch. And I was like, oh, like, why is my mom a bitch? Like, you know, she's just principal. And she's like, why? She's like, I didn't go to school for like 3 weeks and she gave me a truancy ticket. I was like, bitch, you were truant. Like, why didn't you go to school? And she's like, I woke up and I was just like, fuck it. I'm like, that's a terrible excuse. I'll end the story on this one. If you guys need a good excuse, this is not an original joke by me, but it's a very good vaudeville joke or style joke. But if you need a good excuse to get out of work, what you can do is just tell your boss that you have anal glaucoma. There's just no way you can see your ass going into work that day. Pretty good.
That's a good one. I like that. Do you? I'm going to ask you this: are you a scholar of comedy? I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I watch. I listen to podcasts all the time with comedians. I just finished reading Sick in the Head. It's Judd Apatow interviewing comedians.
Oh, wow.
You should get it. It's such a great book. So he started interviewing comedians when he was 15 years old for his high school radio show. And these comedians like didn't know it was just for his high school when he was like 15 years old. So he's like getting Jerry Seinfeld and Gary Shandling and these guys to come hang out with him in Long Island. Yeah. And he does interviews with them. And then over the years, he does all these different interviews with his friends. And then so a couple years ago, he put out the whole collection. So you get to see like Jerry, like it has Jay Leno right before he gets the Tonight Show in an interview with a kid. And he's like, I just do comedy anywhere. I'll do it anywhere. I'll do it in a laundromat, wherever I need to. And it's like, I'm sure he sounds way different now. They were like, would you do comedy in a laundromat? He'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm Jay Leno from the Tonight Show.
And, you know, I saw that also in the Gary Shandling documentary, The Zen of Gary Shandling, that he also made, Judd Apatow. And it was like how he met Gary Shandling. And then he had that mentor. I mean, Gary Shandling was like his mentor. It's fascinating.
Right. Which is very, very important in comedy to have mentors. And then also, I think, to mentor. Yeah. I think like you should have a more experienced comedian that you ask advice from. And then also younger comedians that you give advice to. I think that's like a big thing because a lot of stuff you learn, you like understand it better when you explain it to someone else.
All right, so I gotta end the conversation now because you know the show is over. But this has been super fun, Xander. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And
thanks for having me, man. That was a great time.
Yeah. So you're welcome to come on if you say, hey, Joel, I got a cool song I want to play. I got a cool, funny bit that I want to try out. You're perfectly not perfectly willing. You're perfectly welcome to come. I don't know.
You're
if you're perfectly willing.
You like
you are willing. I also like the fact that you have phrases that I have never heard before, and I don't know whether it's because you are up in San Francisco and there's a lot of like lingo there that is different than ours. Maybe it's tech lingo. Maybe it's just a different generational thing. But I love it, and I love that kind of learning new terminology like that, because it kind of words are powerful. Words are powerful, especially if they're very specific things.
Yeah, when you're able to articulate a feeling better, just because somebody taught you like the word or the phrasing to say it is so special.
Yeah.
I hate when I'll be on stage and I'll be like, and you know when you're like, I don't know any words how to say this. And that's why Shakespeare just invented so many words, because he was just like, I don't know, what do you call the guy that works at your work that always hits on your wife?
Weird.
And he would fucking write out a name. He'd be like, this is the name, right? Of someone who's dead. But he would like actually write out a word for that, and that's what you call it now. I love that.
People don't even realize that Shakespeare invented all these words. I keep saying weird because he invented the word weird. It was in the Scottish.
Did he really?
Yeah. The witches in the Scottish play, he called them weird. And I think that was the first time that word was used. And there's a bunch of them, like you said.
Weird.
So
that's cool.
On that little educational note, thanks for being on the show, Xander, and we'll catch you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. All right.
All right. That was Xander Beltran. I don't know what happened at the match. It's a good question. It's probably like something he does in his live bit. So it probably is a tease. Get you into the show. But yeah, I don't know. The world may never know what happens. But I know what's happening the rest of this week. Wednesday, we're going to have a show during the inauguration, I guess. During the inauguration, we're going to talk about some more cult stuff. We're going to talk about The Martian. We're going to talk about, we're going to have a whole segment that is written by an artificial intelligence being. So it should be pretty fun. Drop in here for the halftime show. You call that an interview? I call that an interview. Yeah, that was a good one. That was one of my favorite ones. And I've got another one coming up on Friday with Rondi Reed, who was Madame Morrible in Wicked. And also she was in August Osage County, where she won the Oscar. And she's got a million crazy stories. And some of them might even involve wrestling. I don't know. It might even be a wrestling match. Who knows? But she does have some great stories about Tom Waits and all kinds of people. Malkovich, all those masters of wrestling. Rondi Reed, yeah. Yep. All right, so it's time to move on to she is a powerhouse. She's like one of the greatest actors on the stage and screen. And she won a Tony, for God's sakes. You mean she won the Tony? Did I say that? Oh, I probably said that wrong. You call that an interview? No, she did not win an Oscar. Sorry. She won the Tony. She won a Tony, for God's sakes. She probably would have won an Oscar if she had been in the movie version of August Osage County, which we're going to get into why she wasn't in the movie. Interesting stories. Right now, I've got a band called Gold Rush. I found them on the internet. They're singing one of my favorite songs, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Deja Vu. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And this is the band Gold Rush Dance Party.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chop.
I'm in the corner.
We are the Gold Rush, and
I got the same shirt on. It's the Gold Rush guy. And I am mute.
If I had ever been here before, I would probably know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been here before on another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal.
This is like the original trance.
With all of you.
I feel like swirling, like a Sufi.
And I feel like I've been here before.
I don't know these guys. I hope they're cool with me playing. This is from like 2010. Tried to get a hold of them. No idea how.
Like I've been here before, and you know,
That'll be good.
it makes me wonder what's going on.
This is all we got until then. Well, there's more stuff. This is one of the things we
Under
know.
the ground. Do you know? Don't you wonder?
Amen to that. Yeah, that'll be good.
What's going
Go to
on
London and see Mark playing in a
down
club
under
on our way to
you?
Bali. That'll be fun. Right. Lunch Therapy Fest. Bali in December. Trish King will be there. That'll be good. The remaining members of Gas Hupper will be there. It's gonna be good. Lunch Therapy Fest. All right. See you all on Wednesday. This has been Lunch Therapy with Xander Beltran, hilarious comedian, fantastic wrestler, juggler.